Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Perform Happy Podcast. I'm excited to bring my guest, Coach Karen Medellin, who is the owner and coach at 360 Elite in Texas. Welcome to the show, Coach Karen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, first of all, you've got a lot of kids signing for scholarships this time of year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so impressive what you guys are able to create at your gym. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? I assume you were a gymnast and kind of what got you to
Yes.
this place, and then we can get into the, exciting outcomes that your kiddos are having.
Sure. Yeah, I was a gymnast. I was level 10. I did elite for a few years as a younger, all the way up to like 14-year-old. I did have a scholarship for UCLA, but unfortunately I was injured. So I decided that another 4 years is probably not the best for my body. But I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason because, I stayed here and, I was like, I'll just coach during college and then I'll be done. I'm going to go to law school or something. And then here I am. I got obsessed with it. But yeah, back in the day, we're training some crazy hours, 40-hour weeks. On top of that, privates, and stretching and strength and conditioning. It was the whole shebang, which I think my background brought me it was a challenge because I wanted to see how efficient could we be with maybe half the hours, letting the kids be kids, not feeling like they're missing out on watching. Like my brother played football. I was never allowed to watch a football game or miss practice or that kind of thing. So that's kind of where my background was. I did gymnastics. I think a lot of us did. Eat, breathe, sleep gymnastics. But yeah, so kind of when I started taking over a program, I coached at my previous gym for 14 years. And that was kind of like my mindset. I wanted to have a positive environment. I wanted the kids to be happy, but yet, can we achieve success? And what does success look like? And that could be different for everybody. I know in our program we do, when the kids walk in the gym, they get comfortable and like, okay, what's your goal? Are we trying to do college? Or are we just doing this for fun or that kind of thing? And, you kind of lay out the path on what that would look like. And so it's been pretty rewarding. These kids that are signing now, I've had since they were 10. So it's a little bittersweet, it's gonna feel empty. We have 6 seniors graduating. So
Oh my gosh. Gotta let those babies fly.
Yep.
Oh, it's so cool. And I love that you go straight to the positivity that, you're running the show and like, dang it, this is going to be fun. And I
Yes.
think in the post Nasser era of gymnastics, it's interesting that sometimes people now associate winning gyms with a not a positive culture, that you can
Mhm.
sort of only have one or the other, that you can either win and grind kids into the ground, or you can have a fun place to train. How do you
Yes.
guys walk that line and manage to do both?
Well, I think it's super important to create a relationship and understand the kids. It has to be you have to create trust and build trust with them. And it can't be 100% just corrections and this and that. Like, hey, what's going on at home, or how's school going? Or what field trips are going on, or that kind of thing. And so I think it's important for us to build that type of bond with the kid
Mm.
and understand them a little bit more before we really have that sort of demand. Like they know the expectation. Obviously we're in season. That might look different for other people, but so for us currently, we have some kids that we're a new gym. A lot of my athletes followed, but we had some others. And so in our transition, it's been one of those things. We've had great staff all team up, but we've never worked together. And so this has been a fun little challenge, and different staff members getting to know all of our kids has looked different. And I think the bottom line is what I would tell them is, if you create that um, bond, that relationship, that trust, you can really go a lot further, and really understand the kids. Because I do believe, I think, fears come from things that we can maybe avoid in the earlier ages. What does mastery look like? Are you scared? I've had kids that were scared to go backwards. Obviously, I think that's one of those are fun. But that's a
I
really
was one of
common
them.
thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a really common thing. And I had a kid, she was back in 2016. She told me, Coach Karen, like, I don't know why a kid just walked behind me in open gym and I just got scared to go backwards. And I was like, okay, well, let's build on your strength. You're great forwards. And this kid, she ended up going to Central Michigan. She could do crazy, front double fulls, all this great stuff. And so for us, I was telling that story to the staff. I think if you build their strengths and then work their weaknesses up, I feel like really those fears kind of start being a fun challenge for them. All right, today we're going to try to make 3 of this, or that sort of thing. And I just feel like it's been a fun transition, kind of going from what we all came from, and then building our own little team that's growing really fast. But
Yeah.
it's exciting. It's exciting. It's a good environment. I think that's what a lot of the kids have enjoyed. This environment is what they say. But it's not always easy. But I think that for the kids, it's exciting to have those challenges and to know, okay, all right, today this is going to be plan A, plan B, plan C,
Mhm.
But yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. Well, and what an amazing way to look at fear as a fun challenge. I am the
Mhm.
same way. When someone says, I had a setback, I lost my skill, I'm like, oh, good. We're going to figure out some really great information about how your mind works because
Yes.
everything was going swimmingly. And then something happened that shook your confidence. And now we're going to know what that is so we can avoid it next time. Like, yes, this is great news. And they look at me like
Yeah.
I'm insane. But
Yes.
then also when they get that skill, like the whole gym goes crazy. You watch them let
Yes.
go for that flyaway or you watch them do that tumbling pass in the meet. And everybody goes completely insane.
Yes.
Meanwhile, yeah, like it's effortless for me to do 2 levels up front tumbling. There's
Right.
so much good in that situation that I think everyone gets really bogged down in the like it has to be a certain way and it has to be like so it sounds like you've got some flexibility with what you're allowing kids to compete while they're also not giving up on those skills.
Right. And I do think it's important because, I feel like I sound old when I say this, but back in my day, you didn't get to you didn't get to choose. Like, I struggled once I got past, 13, 14 years old with double flips. But I was like, I feel so confident with twisting. So like that's a conversation we have with the kids too. We explore all avenues. And so I think it's important to, make sure they do have a voice and all right, how do you feel when you do front tumbling, back tumbling, and we have a kid that's phenomenal twisting right now, but she's struggling with the flip. And so she stays on, double back timers. And, we don't exit, but we do, really build on those strengths. And she can go full and a half front full and front Rudy today. And that's something that's exciting for her. But it's really hard to have that cookie cutter mindset that everybody has to do this, everybody has to do that, because I think a lot of times the kids get, discouraged or
Mhm.
okay, well, maybe I should try something else, or maybe this sport isn't for me. And that's what's hard. And it's the beauty of our sport has so many different avenues, especially
Mhm.
when you do optionals or excel, like you can
Mhm.
really build on those strengths and really, I think that's what at least we use our Excel program for, like really building those strengths,
Yeah.
and having fun with it too. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm convinced that if there was Excel when I was competing, I would have lasted longer. I would have gone farther. I would have been like the team captain. There were so many things that could have been developed in
yes,
me that just it was like, oops, you can't go backwards on beam. Well, good luck to you. Off you
yeah,
go. And you're also too tall, so thanks for coming. It's like today you can be tall, you could be old, you could be scared, you could be like you can
yes,
have terrible time focusing. Like there's room for everybody in the sport now, which
yes,
is it's awesome. So
yeah, it's exciting.
yeah, I mean, it's like what a great place to I would now release my little babies to the sport of gymnastics, whereas before I'd be like, "Heck no, we're not signing up for that."
Yes,
So, okay,
right.
you talked about communication. What
Mhm.
are some communication strategies that you guys use in your gym that keeps, parent and coach on the same page and athlete and coach on the same page? Do you have any kind of tips for people, things that work for you guys especially well?
Yeah, so we do have a policy of, like when the kids are in the gym, respect that time with us, like you have now handed them over to us type thing. But when we do have something happen with an athlete, maybe it's an injury, maybe it's, oh, today was a rough day. She felt like she didn't have a good bar day. I do make sure that whoever that staff, whoever that coach is, we do communicate that with the parents, like, hey, this is one of those learning days, and we tell the kids that too. It's, you don't have a bad meet. You don't have, maybe you didn't do the best that you could or that you wanted to, but those are all great learning experiences. And I had to talk about that with one of our seniors this year. Unfortunately, she had a freak accident, warm up, and she blew out her knee, on a level 10 floor. And so, the only thing she could think of was like, oh, Coach Karen, that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to qualify. I can't. And I was like, it's okay. You don't have to worry about that right now. I was like, you don't have to understand it right now, but you're a coach. You're going to be able to use your experience to help these little ones. You know what I mean? And so for us, I think it's communicating efficiently and effectively. So like at the right time, a lot of times is a coach frustrated with an athlete? Is it time for you to maybe take a breather? Hey, go get water. You know, Sometimes we do have to take that little breather, but I do think it's important for a parent, maybe if they have questions, we talk about this a lot. Go to the coach, go to the coach that you're talking to, or that you're needing advice or something explained maybe. I think the worst thing I think a parent could do is maybe talk amongst each other, because then, it's like a bad game of telephone. Oh, maybe this and this and this. And so when the gym's pretty good about that. We've got some great parents. And so they're pretty supportive and this and that. But I think that has helped a lot because, these moms are great. They're dedicating all their time. Some of them are basically Uber drivers driving an hour back and forth to gym and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of time to maybe think, and their minds start to wander. So I think the best thing you can do is, hey, I'm going to send an email. Or after meet, we have like a 24-hour rule, like, hey, sit on it, sleep on it, and then kind of reevaluate the situation. And then you communicate with the coach, or that sort of thing. So we do try to make sure that there's an open communication, because I think when there's not, and you kind of have those avoiding, situations that, oh, maybe something's going on with my kid, or, they're not, something's up, they don't like them or something. I think it's very important to be able to talk about, whatever it is, to the coach or the parent or the athlete.
Yeah, I think that 24-hour rule is gold, because so many
Hmm.
times in my community, we have, sport parents who are like venting, 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 venting. And then we're like, wow, there's like, whoa, so much going on. And then we're like, hey, how'd it go? And they're like, well, actually, I slept on it and I got more information and there's no problem at all. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, good. So yay for not reacting out of the big
Yes.
emotion. Because when you have a crying kid in your car, you just want to fix it.
Right.
And to be able to give it that 24 hours, I think is a really excellent rule of thumb for parents. I would say in general that
Yes. Uh-huh.
let the kiddo like kind of process through the emotions, you process through your emotions, check back in, and then yeah, go to the coach and just ask curious questions like, hey, what's going on with this? And what's your plan for that? I mean, that's, I think, probably good for parents to ask. But like you said, be efficient. It doesn't have to be a 45-minute meeting at the beginning of every practice,
Right. Yes.
um, but yeah, the emotions, sometimes once they have passed, everybody realizes, oh, this is not that big of a deal. It's okay. You don't have
Yeah.
to be
And then
blaming
really,
people.
exactly. And understanding, like, for instance, scores are subjective, right? Every meet. I always tell the parents, as long as they're consistent, maybe vault this level 6 or 7 meet is all, no one scores a 9. But, at the last meet, Susie got a 9.6. But, sometimes those are a lot of like, can you explain? And it's just different judges look for different things. And, we have no control over the scores, but, we only focus on what we can control, which is the performance of your athlete, the progression, what's the next step, that sort of thing. And so
Hmm.
when they really switch that perspective and that mindset for in that way, I feel like it's a lot easier. Okay, you're right. Yeah. It's not like
Yes.
a standard test at school. And that's what's hard for these a lot of the
Yes.
parents and the athletes, especially when they're first starting to understand. It's like, I didn't get a 97 today. Like, obviously I didn't hit 100%. So those are things that you just have to learn as you go. And a lot of our newer parents, obviously level 3 is like brand new, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
it's like, oh, what happened on ball or what happened here? And so
Yeah.
for coaches just to understand too, like most of these parents have no idea, unless they were
Mhm.
gymnasts before, like taking time to explain those kind of things really, I feel
Yeah.
like could go a long way.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm always trying to encourage people to, when you're posting about your kid on Facebook, have it be, I'm so proud of their effort. She's been working
Yes.
so hard. She's gotten so much better. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
just be like the highlights with the 9.7 and everything else gets pushed to the wayside, because
Yes.
that tells a message to the kids too, that, well, this is what we value. It has to be the good stuff. Otherwise, we're not going to talk about it.
Oh,
Or
I love that. Yes. Hmm.
yeah, what if there were no, like, scores or medals in posts, and it was just, like, my kid is so resilient, my kid has so much character, she's such a great teammate, like, look at this picture of her hyping up her teammates, like, that's the kind of thing that I think as a parent, if you're putting that in the driver's seat for your kid, the scores
Hmm.
will follow,
Right.
and they won't feel this pressure to always perform.
Yes.
So you have this quote that I love, that pressure makes diamonds. So
Hmm.
I would love to talk about kind of your relationship with pressure with your kids, how you prepare them for that pressure. Like, what are some
Yes.
strategies that you guys use that makes for kids that are good under pressure?
Yeah. So I think that's probably one of the best things that we learn in the sport as athletes is learning to deal, under pressure. And it could be that's one of the biggest, I think, life skills that I took away from gymnastics was, okay, I'm nervous about this test in college or what kind of thing. So I do try to talk to them about more of a life experience when we talk about pressure. I said, when you first start driving, you're going to be a little nervous, right? There's going to be a lot of things in life that you do that you're going to have to learn how to, okay, I'm nervous. There's pressure. I've made a million routines, but this one has to count. And so a lot of times in the gym, especially the younger ones, they don't really understand that concept. So, we do pressure sets where, all right, if you guys hit the first one, you only have 3 routines today. If we have a little bit of wobbles, it's 5, falls, it's 7. And that was very difficult for our athletes this year, actually. As soon as like I said those kind of things or that kind of assignment, 3 or 4 immediately bawling. And I'm like, what happened? What's going on? Oh, I'm just scared. I'm gonna have to do 7. I was like, okay, why don't you focus on 5 things? What is your 5, or start with 3? What is your most, keyword on your turn? What are you nervous about? Oh, my series. I feel like my flick lay is gonna go sideways. I was like, okay, so you always want to focus on the correction. You never want to focus on, I think I'm gonna fall. Always focus on those positive affirmations, those positive words in your mind, those keywords. And you treat it as a checklist. And it has worked wonders for these girls. So they got those 3 checklists or those 5 checklists, those items. And so that has been something that I've seen a lot of growth on. Because they're physically prepped, right? This sport is 90%, I feel like, mental. Once they're, physically prepped and they're ready to go, you've got your physical, your mental, and your emotional. And so those things, training all 3 couldn't be challenging. But that has now in postseason has really come out that I feel like it's been a big jump, a big growth for us as a program. And I think about beam the most. It's everyone's favorite. You're
Oh
full
gosh, yes.
4 inches. So that's been something really cool. And the girl's like, wow, Coach Karen, that really helps. Like thinking
Mhm.
about those checkpoints. And you
Yes.
don't think about this big scary thing, this minute and a half. You think of, okay, boom, all right. If you have 4, you're 25% done, 50% done. And so those things have really helped them. And so then,
Mhm.
they start taking that to floor or bars, and they have those keywords that kind of help them, but just breaking that down. And one of the kids even said on leg lifts, when we time leg lifts, she's like, okay, when you tell me like 10 more seconds, 5 more seconds, in my head I use the checklist. So those things seem to help. And I know it helped me as an athlete too, when I was doing either a long run or something like that, that you really kind of deconstruct or break that down in your head, that
Mhm.
okay, I've accomplished this. And that's another thing that we talk about. What does success look like? Hey, I hit 50% of my routine. Now I just got to work on the second half or
Yeah.
whatnot. So when
Yes.
we deal with pressure, it's a lot of that side of that type of assignment. Or some girls maybe get nervous when there's a lot of eyes watching. It's like, all right, next up from 360 Elite, we do this whole announcer voice. And the whole gym has to stop and watch. And so for them, it's kind of like, oh, but they get that pressure feeling like at a meet. So
Mhm.
those are things that I think are good tools to use for the
Yes.
kids.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I know there's some kids who, like, if nobody's watching and it doesn't count, they nail it. It's perfect.
Yes.
It's so good. It's effortless. They have fun, and then you add the eyes of the gym and boop, off the beam. Or you
Yes.
add that,
I just
you
took 7 routines. Yeah.
yes, or like, "Coach Karen, watch me." Oh, and they fall they're like, "I just did it, I promise." You're like, "I know." But
Yes.
it's so important to teach them, "Okay, well, what are you doing when nobody's watching that you wanna
Hmm.
duplicate?" And you're probably just taking it one skill at a time. You're probably focusing in on your corrections. You're probably just, you're very focused because you don't have the distraction of perfection and so it's
Right.
great to have that checklist of, okay, what are the 3 things you have to do? Not what are you worried will happen or what, but how are you actually
Hmm.
gonna do the skill so that then you'll stay on? It's
Yes.
like you just do this one thing and you're gonna make the routine, or volley, like
Yes.
just get your hands on the hand mat, the rest is gonna follow great. So
Right.
it's like those, and then you trust the rest, which
Hmm.
is a skill that girls, especially in higher levels, they start to learn how to trust themselves. And
Yes.
do you notice that there's like a line they cross when kids go from like overthinking, over trying into trusting their routines?
Yes.
And
Oh, absolutely.
and how do you get them there? That's like always the most elusive question is, okay, like you got this. Your body can do this. You are prepared. How do you get out there and just let it happen? Any
Yeah, I think
guidance on
it's
that?
well, I think it's a numbers thing too. I tell the girls, I compare it to school a lot. So, when you're learning algebra for the first time, the first couple times it's like, okay, wait, what was first? What do I do here? What do I do there? And so when their brain starts to click, okay, I've done 15 problems correctly. I think a numbers thing, not just cognitively, but like physically is a big thing for them. And so we have like a chart. So it's like optional beam routines and they write their name and they have to tally. And so it's throughout the year. And so when they got to like 100 routines, obviously from January till now, a lot of them have passed it now. But I was like, how do you feel? Take a second, like look at the all those tallies. How do you feel? I feel like I could do this routine in my sleep, and they feel that confidence. And so we encourage that, and that there's a power. There's something to be said, I think, in journaling and in writing and seeing something, tactical down on paper that for them is like, I really just did over 100 routines. Wow, that's crazy. And so they have that confidence that, okay, this one's going to hit. Or we do, all right, guys, we're a team. We got 7 of us. We only have one round everyone has to hit. And so that's kind of a fun way to like as a team, everyone goes back to back. And that's been super fun too because they're supportive. If someone messes up, it's okay. We'll start off. But that's another good pressure set type thing to do with them. And we do, like we'll stack a pit cube for each routine that's made. And so, guys, we got to as tall as me. So those are
Yeah.
those are fun little things that we do. But I think for the kid themselves, it's when they see, okay, this pit block resembles one routine. They see or those tallies. I think for them is even it stands out a little bit more in their head.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's great how you've touched on kind of the audio learners with the cue words, and then there's
Mhm.
the visual kids who are going to get a
Yes.
lot out of just seeing those tallies and going, "Oh, I can trust myself because I look at that tower that our team just put together. Of course, we can go to this meet and kill it because we keep
Yes.
stacking blocks every day." It's great to have that visual representation of
Mhm.
success because it's so easy to focus in on our weak spots and everybody else's successes, but if it's like black and white, you can't dispute it. "Look, girl, you've made 100 routines."
Mhm.
It makes sense why those college girls are out there just hitting, hitting,
Right.
hitting. Well, they've been doing that routine for 6 years. Of course they
Yes.
hit. There's like they don't even have to think about it at this point. It's just like they do their little checklist and boom, boom, boom. And you
Yes.
can there too if you put in that many numbers. It's like just
Mhm.
math, really. Awesome.
Yes.
So how do you when your kids are doing great and then like the dreaded mental block hits, and let's say it happens in season, which is like the worst possible time where, okay, now we are not throwing the series, or now the
Mhm.
dismount off bars is not happening. What is your approach that seems to work best to help kids through that efficiently?
So first, I do take a little bit of a break. I let them go, hey, you know what? I feel like your series or your leap series a little bit low. Let's work on getting that back leg up and have them feel like they've accomplished something and feel that sense of success on something maybe a little bit more minor. I mean, all skills are worth the same. I try to tell them that, but something that they feel like, okay, I nailed that one. So I feel like them having a sense of success and then coming back to working on the series. That's a big one for us. Actually, I had a kid that is exactly that. And so, her series is a back handspring back tuck. And for whatever reason, she was nailing it January through the beginning of March. And then she's like, I don't know what happened. And she's an older kid, she's in high school, she's a sophomore. I was like, okay, so what do you feel? I don't know. I'm not really even scared. I just want to go for it at this point. And my body's stopping. I was like, okay, let's go walk over handspring back handspring. Let's do this. A drill with the Bozu ball that I set up. And then that whole day, we don't do a series. But hey, at the end of the day, we go do 5 on the line. And she does it where she can feel safe, successful, nail it, boom. The next day, it kind of, we build it up on the road beam, on the laser beam, this kind of thing. But I do feel like, and I talk, it depends on their age, but for her, I talk a lot about, mastery of a skill really starts diminishing the fear. I really do believe that. I said, okay, so we're nervous about the step down into the tuck. Okay, let's do standing tucks. Let's do handstand, step down tuck. I'll spot it. We'll do it safe wherever. And she's like, well, that's kind of scarier than the handspring tuck. And then I said, but it's fine. Look, I got you. I'm going to spot the whole thing. And she's like, okay, I think I can do it now. And so you really, I think, to put it in fewer words, I think deconstructing the skill is really, really important. And then for them to kind of figure out on their own, okay, well, I can physically do this. It's really just about, putting my jump to handstand, the handstand step down, and the back tuck all together. And again, it's the 3 pointers. So those kind of things I feel like really do help. And like I said, for an older kid, explaining it that way. If you've mastered the flick, the handstand back handspring, the handstand back tuck, you're really just piecing it together. And then again, hey, look how many series you've made from January to now. Okay. All right. And that kind of starts to help. It's not always that easy. Sometimes it takes longer. And the biggest thing is being patient. Because, as a coach, you're like, I know this kid can do it. Come on, but like really not projecting that on them. That's the difficult part. When I will say, when I was younger, I'm like, I don't get it. Just do it, guys. Look, just do it like this.
Yeah. Yeah,
So as
that's
a younger coach, I think that was my biggest like struggle as a coach. Just like, I don't get it. We weren't allowed to have fears, like, you know. And
yeah,
so,
you just
but those,
go. Come on, get up and go. You can do better than
yes,
anybody. Come on, what's the problem? Climb the rope. It's like but it's not about that. It's that they have to feel reassured. And they have
yes,
to, and if there's a little piece of the skill that's kind of missing in their mental blueprint, they have to drill that. Like that, if it's that step down tuck, that's the
hmm
little moment where the fear pops up, then you drill that and when you're safe in a way.
right,
And it's so amazing that you're like, yeah, we're in season. And yeah, we're gonna go down to the low beam and I'm gonna spot you.
yeah,
It's just what it takes. And the kids who don't get stuck in fear, I call it like these little dips in confidence. The ones who have the shortest little cute dips that don't really bother everybody too much are the ones that
hmm
are willing and ready to take a step back, reassure their brain, and then get back to work. If they're like, no,
yes,
I'm fine. I can go. I'll do it. I'll do it. And then they're balking and balking and balking. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, stop doing that. That just
yes,
makes it worse. Where if you're just like, hey, kiddo, let's go. Come here. Go work your leaps. Oh, those are beautiful. You get them a
yes,
win. You got them remembering, oh, that's right. I'm not horrible at this sport. I'm okay.
yes,
You like distract them with just like a little win. That's what they need when they feel
yeah.
like they're falling apart mentally. And then go back to where they can do it confidently, where it feels safe and just rebuild. How long did that whole process take you guys?
I'll say about 2 weeks, to be honest. It was a while, but a while for in season. But so yeah, but I just think deconstructing the skill is huge, but also giving them those little wins, those little carrots, like, okay, I can do this. and maybe even giving them a second option. So I'm always like, hey, side aerial round off is worth 2/10. Actually, it's harder than what you're doing. Why don't we work that on the side? And their brain is just kind of thinking about, okay, this is a completely different mechanical, like the technique is different. It's a completely different skill and series. And so they have to really focus their energy on that and not so much, I'm scared, I'm nervous, and so you're rechanneling all of that because they're smart kids. Sometimes I tell them too, I was like, it was a little too smart. Your brain
Yeah.
is like, okay, I'm thinking about all these things that could happen. I was like, it won't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Too smart for their own good.
Like you're not gonna, the brain's not, yeah. I tell them, and it's a joke, but I'm like, the beam's not gonna break in half. You're not gonna, you guys start thinking about all these crazy things that'll happen. So just catch your breath, take a deep breath, and go.
Yes.
So, but yeah, and I do think if maybe that day it's not working, it's time to take a break. Okay, let's finish on one on the line and literally just move on. Because I think the longer it, and even like going home and talking about it. I had that happen too. I talked to the mom. I said, hey, I think if we just don't make it a big deal in the car or at home, they're not going to be only focused on that, you know? And when they're ready to talk, and if they want to talk, you're their biggest cheerleader. It's a hard thing to understand for a coach, for a parent, for a gymnast. I was a gymnast too, but like some of the things I'm like, I don't get it. Or I'm like, girl, I know exactly what you're going through. Some things are, when you've gone through it personally, you get it. But patience is probably the best. That's the best
Yes.
advice.
Yes. And 2 weeks in the scheme of a little dip in confidence is like nothing, right? So that is a huge success of we're not freaking out. We're doing the right things. We're going to build confidence. Great. Look at you. She's like, I want to do it. You let her. She goes, whoo. Okay. We're
Yes.
back in competition.
Yes.
But it takes longer sometimes. It just takes longer,
Yeah.
especially if there's been a fall or if there's been, some kind of big blow to confidence, a growth spurt. There's so many things that can like set a whole
Yeah.
bar routine wacky for a
Mhm.
while. And so
Right.
just being patient and allowing it to reemerge when it's time and not making a big deal out of it. It's like when
Yeah.
kids go on vacation and they're like, oh no, every time I go on vacation, I lose my skills. What's going to happen when they get back? They lose their skills. If they go on vacation
Yes.
and they're like, I'm at grandma's, I'm having a great time. Now my body doesn't hurt. They get back to gym and they do all their stuff. It's
Yes.
like, don't make it a big deal is such a big part of it, I think. So parents out there, like, just don't make it a big deal. It doesn't have to be at all.
Yeah.
Even a 6-month
Exactly.
mental block does not have to be a big deal because you just
Mhm.
be patient and it's going to work itself out.
Right.
Perspective, but okay,
Yeah.
now since you've got these kids that are living their dreams, they're going to college, what do you think is the most important quality in these kids that gets them to their dream?
Oh, the most important. I
Or top
honestly, I
top
think,
3 if you can't get to one.
well, I always go back to attitude and effort. Attitude and effort has been something that we kind of drill into the girls. I was like, you're going to have off days. There's going to be days where you just don't feel something. I don't know why my cast handstands just keep going over, or I'm crooked on beam. I was like, but it's how you handle that.
Mm.
And even some of my athletes that are in college now, I get to watch them every now and then on TV, or I went to Nebraska, Arkansas a couple weeks ago. And, I still remind them, it's like, it's how, you're always competing for a lineup position there. They're so deep and they're so stacked on who they can put up. It's like, but for you guys, you got to remember, how do you handle the win? How do you handle the loss? Maybe the routine wasn't as perfect as you wanted to, but like you can control how you handle it. You're not going to do anything right there. You can be a great teammate. You can support the team and this and that, but you have to be able to, okay, I'm going to lock in when I get back to practice. This is what I got to do. And that's it. But yeah, I feel like that it's building up to it also is just attitude and effort too. Like, do you have the right mindset? Are you being coachable? Do you ask questions? Because a lot of the times I'm like, okay, does that make sense? I'm like, it's okay if it doesn't. I can explain it completely different. And so feeling okay to ask those questions, like have a voice, and I feel very blessed and lucky. I think our kids are very respectful. Like I really haven't had to deal with a lot of other things that some of my coaching friends are like, man, I just don't know how to handle X, Y, and Z. And I was like, I don't know. knock on wood, but our kids I haven't had issues with, having to discipline so much or anything like that. But it is more so putting in that position, like, how do you handle success and how do you handle quote unquote failure? And so we try not to view it as a failure. It's a learning experience. You know what I mean? And especially in a meet, are you going to remember 5 years from now, you're going to remember your level 5 district qualifier when did too many tap swings, or, we had a kid that ended up going all the way to level 9, and she ended up moving on to, she's an equestrian. She does all the horse riding and everything. She's awesome. But she did 3 back handsprings in her level 4 routine. And we joke about it all the time. I was like, do you still remember that? She was like, I laugh about it now, but I remember you telling me that I was going to laugh about that one day. And I was like, mm-mm. She said, that was the biggest thing in my mind. And I said, it's just, it's growing pains. You're living it. You're in the moment. And you're like, why did I do that? But knowing that, okay, I can only do better next time. And, setting yourself up for seeing that and from a different perspective as a learning experience instead of, dwelling on it, if that makes sense. So I was like, you're allowed to have your feelings, but don't live there. Think about what you can do the next time you're in the gym. If it's at a meet, okay, shake it off. I got 4 events, and it's easier said than done. I completely understand that. But that, I think, is one of the most valuable skills as a collegiate athlete as well, if you're competing all around or that kind of thing. And like you said, once they get to that point, they've done so many numbers that they don't deal with it as much, but it happens. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm thinking back to one of the kids that I coached who went to UCLA, and she mounted the beam backwards in her level 4 beam routine and got completely lost on the beam. It was like train wreck routine.
oh, that's
And girlfriend goes and competes for UCLA, like it doesn't matter
yes,
what happens, but she's the kid with heart who showed up
yeah,
and wanted to do extra conditioning and was like the biggest team cheerleader, and she worked harder than anybody and didn't have it handed to her. And it's like,
yeah,
it's not the kid with the talent that's necessarily going to be the one who gets there. It's the one who's
yes,
got the heart and the attitude and that effort, that like never give up spirit. That's the
yeah,
kid who gets there, as long as they don't
yeah,
grind themselves into the ground because of their perfectionism.
right.
So that's where I love that you and I have the same perspective on failure. Like, it's a necessary stepping stone that you learn from. You got it. So if you're afraid of it, you're going to go insane. You have to just
Yeah,
learn how to bounce back from
absolutely.
it and learn as quickly as you can, as efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
That's what champions do. Yeah. Okay. So to wrap it up here, I'd love to just touch in on the parents. So you've had many parents in your life of coaching. What's the most important quality in a sport parent that sets their kid up for success? If you were going to give a gold medal to the parent who just nailed it, whose kid went the distance, what is it about them that they did right?
I think if I could sum it up in one word, it'd be supportive. And that could be supportive of their own athlete, the program, the the coaches, the staff, everything. Because it doesn't mean you're always 100% happy and you don't have any questions and you're just going to have to, hold it all inside. It just means, okay, I need to trust. And whenever I have a question, I just ask who I'm supposed to ask. But I think being supportive of the athlete, it really makes more successful athletes. And not really like, hey, I saw that you were, flexing your feet on X, Y, and Z. At the end of the day, like, that's not what they want to hear from their parent. So being supportive 100% of the time, and I hear parents joke with the kids, and that's one thing too. But being supportive of their child first and foremost, I think goes a long way. There's been really great parents. A lot of the seniors that we have this year, I'm sad that I'm losing those parents because they've had great moms, and they've had 2 or 3 kids, in gymnastics and or kids in general. And I think the moms just kind of get it at that point. But they've been so supportive of their kid. They never felt. In the past, I've had athletes that got injured and they were scared that their parents were going to be upset, that they were hurt. And so I think being supportive of your athlete first and foremost, and the program it makes the whole journey a whole lot more enjoyable, I would say. And it makes the coaches want to, it's easier. You're approachable. There's a great line of communication, just by having that support. And, I think that would make it 100% better.
Yeah. Yeah, I talk about it like being the soft place to land. That's the
Hmm.
parents' roles. You're the soft place to land at the end of a hard day. You're not
Yes.
I was having like PTSD memories of my mom in the kitchen adjusting my arms because she was the ballerina. And I was like, Mom, that's not even how it goes in gymnastics. Like, stop, stop, stop. Just
Yes.
be like, I love you. I'm playing Taylor Swift in the car. Here's your food. I'm so proud of you. The end.
Yes. Yeah. And I've noticed the switch too in some of the parents that we've had, that they were not like that at the beginning. And that, over the years they've kind of started to have this switch that I honestly haven't talked to some of these parents about it, but I've just noticed. And when talking to the kids and stuff like that, and I've seen one specifically, like she's just starting to skyrocket.
Mm.
And it's crazy how much that, it's not even in training anything,
Yeah.
but how much that can improve the athlete's performance, really. It's
Yeah.
fascinating to me.
Yep. The last 2 years, I've been putting more love into training parents and the
Hmm.
kids. It's like we don't have to do as much with the kids because the weight of their parents' emotional life is no longer on their shoulders, and they can just
Yes.
go try. They can make mistakes. They can hate gymnastics for a day. Like, it's all okay, and then it's not a
Yes.
big deal, and then we like next day's fine, and it's amazing what happens when the parents can just be that soft place to land,
Yes.
just food, hugs, rides, tuition,
Hmm.
and let it all be okay. It's really cool to watch when the kids just feel that freedom of my mama loves me, no matter if I
Yes.
love it today, if I'm happy, if I'm winning, if I'm a brat, like it's all good, and then it will be okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
Karen, this has been so wonderful. I'm so happy that you are doing what you're doing. I'm happy for your kiddos and all the success that they're having and will have. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yes. Thanks again for having me. I love following your page. I feel like it's been amazing for coaches, athletes, and parents. So keep doing what you're doing, because
Yeah,
I'm a
and
fan.
you too. So how do they follow you? Because you put out amazing content too.
Yeah, so I have my Instagram, Coach Karen 25. And our, gym page is 360 Elite Gym. I actually am not very good at posting on that one, but I need to now that step into the ownership role. I'm like, okay, this is a little different. I'm wearing a lot of many different hats, but social
Yes.
media is one of them. But yeah, so my main one is Coach Karen 25.
Yeah. So follow Coach Karen, get all the inspiration, and thanks again.
Yes, thank you.